guys, welcome to today's episode of Listen In with Lindsay. I'm your host, Lindsay, an award-winning singer and voice actress who loves talking all things music, cartoons, TV, anime with you. Listen In with Lindsay. If you do enjoy my content, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment to keep up to date with all of the fun. Follow me on this, all right? Beauty and the Beast, the timeline where Gaston played it cool. Originally, he was the man who lost because he tried too hard. Let that sink in. Dun, dun, dun. There is a moment in Beauty and the Beast that most people barely notice. It happens early, before the castle, before the mob, before the roses and the ballroom and the transformation, all right? It's a moment where Gaston could have won. Have you thought about it? Not through force, not through intimidation, not even through entitlement, because let me tell you, he's an entitled one, but through patience. And he doesn't take it. No siree, Bob. Today we're going to explore an alternate reality, a version of Beauty and the Beast where Gaston doesn't embarrass himself, where he doesn't pressure Belle, where he doesn't spiral into obsession land, territory, all the above. A reality where Gaston plays it cool. And we're going to ask a dangerous question. If Gaston had emotional control, would Belle have chosen him? I don't know. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by me, my creativity, vision, and drive to create wonderful, glorious kids content for the next generation. My current project is a preschool sing-along starring a giraffe named Gigi who sings and plays with all her colorful preschool pals. We have 13 fun kids songs available to download and stream, guys. We even have fun vinyls and CDs. If you have a little one that needs some color and music in their life, then head on over to elrodco.com/gigibrand. That's elrodco.com/gigibrand. Enjoy! Okay, the lie we were told about Gaston. Most people remember Gaston as a cartoon villain, a narcissist, a brute, a joke even. A handsome joke at that. But that's not how the village sees him. The village sees Gaston as the most physically capable man for miles, a provider, a proven provider, a local hero, a man with status, influence, and social proof. He is admired, he is revered, desired, deferred to, and most importantly, Belle does not reject Gaston because he lacks value. She rejects him because he lacks restraint. Belle is not immune to status. This is important. So let's slow down. Belle is intelligent, independent, curious, but she's not disconnected from her environment. She lives in a small provincial town where books are rare, adventure is theoretical, safety is practical. Belle dreams of more, but she doesn't yet know what that looks like. And crucially, she does not immediately fall for the Beast. She tolerates him. I mean, he is her captor, right? She negotiates with him. She slowly recalibrates her fear into understanding, which tells us something uncomfortable. Belle's love is not instantaneous. It's not destiny. It is gradual, emotional safety. So let's ask the question honestly. What if Gaston provided that safety first? The fatal mistake Gaston makes. Gaston's downfall isn't arrogance. It's urgency. He wants Belle now. He wants validation now. I demand satisfaction. He wants possession right now. The proposal scene isn't romantic because Gaston treats marriage like a prize ceremony. He doesn't ask Belle who she is becoming. He doesn't ask what she wants. He doesn't even sit down. I mean, unless it's to put his gross feet on her table. And Belle doesn't reject him because he's strong. She rejects him because he never, ever listens. Hello? So let's change one thing. In this alternate timeline, we change one single behavior. Gaston does not propose. That's it. No grand gesture, no muddy boots, no wedding dress surprise and whatnot. Instead, Gaston notices Belle's disinterest, and for the first time in his life, he backs off. The first divergence point. Picture this scene. Same village morning, same book in Belle's hand, same chorus calling her strange. Gaston sees her. He approaches, but this time he doesn't block her path. Oh no, he walks with her, and when she gives short answers, he doesn't push. No, he simply says this. You always look like you're somewhere else. Belle pauses, because that's the first true thing anyone in this town has ever said to her. The power of not needing. In this timeline, Gaston doesn't chase, he lets Belle go. And that confuses her to no end, right? Because Gaston is the one man in town who never, ever gets told no. And now he's choosing not to demand yes. This does two things psychologically, I think, right? Gaston becomes unpredictable. Belle becomes curious, not attracted, not impressed per se, curious. Why curiosity matters more than attraction. Attraction is loud, curiosity is quiet. Attraction pushes, curiosity pulls. And Belle, who is bored out of her mind, suddenly has a question she can't answer. Why didn't Gaston try to win? The pub scene rewritten. Can I say that 5 times fast? Ugh. In the original film, Gaston's pub song turns him into a caricature. In this timeline, he still drinks, he still jokes, he still commands the room. But when Belle is in danger and her father passes the window, he doesn't perform. He doesn't, get too involved. That restraint does something dangerous. It gives, I guess Belle, in a broader sense, a space to imagine him differently. The beast still exists. Now, let's be clear. The beast doesn't disappear in this timeline. The curse still happens. Maurice still gets lost. The castle still looms. But Belle enters the forest without fully closing the door behind her. And that matters. Because when Belle sacrifices herself for her father, she isn't escaping Gaston. She's choosing uncertainty over stagnation. Meanwhile, Gaston notices something is wrong. Gaston realizes Belle is gone, and in the original timeline, this triggers obsession. In this version, it triggers responsibility. He organizes a search, not a rescue for glory, a search because someone is missing. And the village follows him, not because he demands it, but because they trust him. They trust his judgment. Okay, 2 men, 2 approaches to power. This is where the story fractures. The beast uses fear to control his world. Gaston uses competence. The beast imprisons Belle. Gaston would have protected her freedom. And Belle will feel that contrast later on. The question that haunts this timeline as Belle begins bonding with the beast, somewhere in the village, there is a man who didn't force the issue, right? And that absence becomes a presence, an ever-looming one. Because sometimes the most powerful move you can ever make is walking away. Something to think about, right? Okay. I want to explore how Belle's relationship with the beast changes when Gaston isn't a villain. Why the beast loses his moral high ground, and the subtle ways emotional intelligence reshapes destiny. This is where the triangle truly begins. All right, let's get into it. Okay, I've been pondering on this a lot, actually. And this is what I've come up with. When the monster is no longer the only option. Okay, that's a little rude, but you get where I'm going with this, right? You do? Really? Okay, good. Let's get into it. All right, it's not because he's kind, it's not because he's gentle, but because Gaston self-destructs. Remove Gaston's obsession, and suddenly the beast has real competition for Belle's heart. I guess not for Belle's affection, but for her trust more so. The castle feels different this time. When Belle enters the beast castle, fear is still there, the shadows still move, the door still slams. The beast still roars, but something subtle has changed. Belle isn't running from a man anymore. She isn't fleeing humiliation. She isn't escaping pressure. She is choosing danger over boredom. And that distinction is something, let me tell you, because when Belle looks at the beast now, she isn't comparing him to Gaston the villain. She's comparing him to Gaston the man who let her choose. Fear versus respect. The beast controls Belle with rules. Don't go there. Don't touch that. Don't leave. Gaston, back in the village, controls nothing. And yet, Belle feels safer with the man who isn't trying to cage her. Even while she's literally imprisoned, the beast's temper is no longer romantic, all right? Here's the uncomfortable truth. The beast's outbursts only seem forgivable because he's cursed, he's lonely, he's contrasted with a worse man. But remove that contrast and his rage becomes ever more visible, right? When he yells at Belle in this timeline, it doesn't feel tragic. It feels unstable. Belle notices the pattern. Belle is observant. She notices that the beast apologizes after the damage. His kindness comes in cycles. His affection depends on her compliance. This isn't love yet. It's negotiation. Back in the village, Gaston does nothing. This is the most important choice Gaston makes. He doesn't storm the castle. He doesn't spread rumors. He doesn't invent a villain, right? He waits. And waiting for the first time in his life costs him something, okay? Because waiting means not being the hero. The search party that never becomes a mob. Think about it. In the original timeline, fear turns into violence. In this one, Gaston leads a quiet search. He listens to Maurice. He confirms details. He sends men in pairs, right? No torches, no speeches, no hysteria. And when they don't find Belle, he calls it off, all right? Not because he's given up, per se, but because forcing the unknown would only make things, dare I say, worse. This earns him something priceless. Trust, right? Belle begins to miss the outside world. Time passes. The library still dazzles. The dinners still charm. But the castle doesn't grow. All right? It repeats. And Belle starts to realize something subtle and frightening all at the same time. The beast world only exists inside himself. There is no future here. None that she should be a part of anyway. Only maintenance. Letters that never arrive. In this timeline, Belle writes letters. She doesn't send them. But she writes all the same about the castle, about fear, about kindness that feels conditional. And in every letter, there's an absence. She never writes Gaston's name, but she describes him without realizing it. Okay? Someone who let me walk away. The beast senses the ship. The beast notices Belle pulling back, not physically, emotionally. And instead of asking why, he tries harder. More gifts, more rules, more intensity. Love to him is urgency. And urgency is the one thing Belle has learned to fear. Gaston receives news. Maurice returns alive, shaken, honest. He tells Gaston everything. Tells him all the things with the beast. And Gaston does something no one expects. He believes him. No asylum, no ridicule, no manipulation, just quiet acceptance. And a decision. The second divergence point, Gaston prepares to go to the castle, not to fight, to confirm. And if Belle wants to stay, he will leave her there. This single intention reshapes the entire story. The question that changes everything. Belle stands on the balcony one night, looking out, okay, wondering whether freedom always has to come with fear. And somewhere on a forest path, a man is walking toward the truth without needing to win. It's something to think about, right? Okay, I also want to get into Gaston's arrival at the castle. The moment Belle realizes she was never actually choosing between men, and the first time the beast understands he might lose her. This is where the fairy tale starts to crack. Are you guys ready to get into it? I so am. All right, here we go. The quiet man at the gates. Ooh, it has a nice ring to it, right? Yes. Okay, there is a knock at the castle gates. Not a crash, not a shout, not a challenge, all right? Just a knock. Simple, measured, human, totally reasonable. And for the first time in years, the beast hesitates before answering. The monster meets a man. When the doors open, the beast expects fear. That's what everyone brings him. Instead, he finds Gaston, a transformed Gaston, standing still, hands visible, no weapon raised, not defiant, not submissive, present. And that alone destabilizes the beast more than any mob ever could. This is not a rescue. Gaston does not demand Belle back. He does not accuse. He does not threaten. He says only this: I came to see if the stories were true. Ooh, that sentence hits, right? Because it is not about ownership. It is about reality. Belle hears the voice. Belle recognizes it instantly. Not with relief, not with excitement, okay? With grounding. Ooh, because it is the voice of the world she left behind. And she realizes something she hadn't allowed herself to think. She didn't disappear. People noticed. The beast's first instinct is control. The beast blocks the doorway. He frames Gaston as a danger, a liar, a brute, a hunter. And Belle watches this carefully, okay? Because she's seen this tactic before. Oh yes, fear dressed up as protection, right? Gaston does not defend himself. This is the second time Gaston surprises her. He does not argue the beast at all, right? He looks at Belle and asks one question. Are you here because you want to be? Silence follows. Not because Belle is afraid to answer, but because no one has asked her that since she arrived. Choice exposed. Belle says the truth. She says, I chose to say, but I didn't choose how. The room changes because the beast hears it too. And for the first time, he understands that love built on confinement is still confinement. I mean, obviously, the beast's fragile claim, the beast insists he's changed. And he has, right? But change without trust is just rebranding, marketing. Belle doesn't argue. She doesn't accuse. She simply looks tired. And that hurts more than anger ever could, right? Gaston's offer. Gaston turns to leave. He does not ask Belle to follow. He says this: I'll be in the village if you decide you want to come home. Not with me, home. That word lands differently. Why this breaks the beast? Because the beast has no equivalent offer. None. He can only offer staying, right? Not becoming. And he realizes too late that affection without freedom is not love. It's dependence. Belle is left alone. That night, Belle walks the halls. The castle feels smaller now, not because it changed. It didn't change at all, but because her understanding did, right? She realizes something devastating. The beast never imagined her leaving. He imagined her accepting. Back in the village, Gaston does not boast. He does not explain. When asked, he simply says, she's alive. And lets that be enough. This restraint does something remarkable, right? It restores his humanity. The third divergence point. The beast releases Belle. Not dramatically, not nobly, quietly. Because now he knows. If she stays after this, it has to be real. The road between worlds. Belle leaves the castle at dawn, not running, not rescued, walking. And every step is a choice, her choice. The question no fairy tale likes to ask: what happens when the monster learns too late? What happens when the hero doesn't fight? And what happens when the girl realizes? It's something to think about, right? She was never choosing between men, obviously. I guess she was choosing between versions of herself. Okay, here's something else I want to explore. Belle's return to the village. Why Gaston's restraint creates emotional gravity, and how the beast's redemption arc collapses without a villain to oppose. This is where the ending becomes uncertain. All right, let's think about it, let's ponder, and then let's get back into it. When home is no longer small. All right, Belle expects the village to feel the same. It doesn't at the end of the day, because she has changed, right? And because one man in it has changed too. No parade, no applause. When Belle returns, there is no spectacle, no celebration, no interrogation, no claims of heroism, right? Gaston does not announce her return. He doesn't frame it as a victory. He lets her walk through the village as herself. And that dignity is new, refreshing even. Belle notices the difference immediately. She's not dumb. Gaston doesn't hover. He doesn't follow her home. He doesn't ask where she's been, right? He knows. He lets the silence exist. And silence after captivity feels like trust. The inversion of power. Here is the paradox. Gaston has never been less aggressive, okay? And he has never been more influential. The village watches him take cues from Belle, right? They see him listen to her. They see him wait for her. And suddenly, Belle is not awed. She is respected. Why Belle starts talking to Gaston, not romantically, not yet, right? She talks because he is the only one who does not demand a version of her. He does not need her to be grateful. No, he does not need her to explain. He does not need her to stay, right? And that makes him safe. It builds trust. Safety before desire. This is something fairy tales rarely admit. Desire is volatile. Safety is magnetic. Belle finds herself lingering in conversations with Gaston, not because Gaston dazzles her, right? But because he makes room for her. The beast watches from afar. Yes, in this timeline, the beast follows. Not stalking, observing, right? Because without Belle, the castle begins to rot away. The servants feel it. The magic weakens. The beast's transformation required reciprocity, and he lost it. Gaston is offered his old role back. The village wants him to lead again, to hunt, to dominate, to perform. He refuses. Interesting, right? He says this, "I don't need to be loud to be useful." That sentence quietly redefines masculinity in the village. Belle and Gaston share a walk. It's ordinary, no music, no montage, right? They talk about books, stories, about fear, about being expected to play roles, right? Gaston admits something he never has before. "I didn't know how to stop trying to win." Belle smiles, not because it's charming, because it's honest, it's real. The moment Belle realizes the difference, the beast loved her potential. Gaston respects her present, okay? That difference is everything, guys. The beast's last attempt. He arrives at the edge of the village, not roaring, not threatening, right? Asking. But it is too late, because now Belle knows. Urgency is not romance. Intensity is not depth. And love that arrives only when it's about to be lost, is that love? It's not. It's fear. A choice without drama. Belle does not confront the beast. She does not argue. She simply does not return. And that is the most painful ending for him, the beast. The fairy tale without fireworks. Belle does not choose Gaston in a dramatic sense. She chooses a life where she is not managed, where she can be truly free. And Gaston happens to be part of that life. Isn't that beautiful? Okay. Finally, would Gaston have gotten the girl? That's the question we wanted to know originally, right? What does this timeline say about love, restraint, and attraction, and why the original story needed Gaston to fail? Okay, so let's get into all that. Here's what I've been thinking about. Would he have gotten the girl? That's the main question. So now we got to answer it. Am I right? The one that's been waiting quietly beneath the story. If Gaston had played it cool, would he have gotten the girl? The honest answer is not in the way fairy tales promise, but yes, in the way real life works. Honestly, the difference between winning and being chosen. Gaston does not win Belle. There is no climax, no declaration, no kiss time to music. Okay? Because Belle was never a prize. Like Jasmine says, "I am not a prize to be won." She was a person deciding what kind of life she wanted to live. And Gaston stopped interfering with that decision. Why playing it cool worked. Gaston's restraint did 3 critical things. Number 1, it restored Belle's agency. Number 2, it revealed the beast's dependence on control. Number 3, it allowed attraction to emerge naturally or not at all. And that or not at all is the part that makes it real. The beast's tragedy, the beast was not evil, but he was unfinished. He needed Belle to complete his redemption, right? And that made her responsible for his growth, okay? This is not romance. This is emotional labor. Gaston's quiet growth. Gaston changed without asking for a reward. He did not improve to be chosen, right? He improved to be stable, a better version of himself. Stability is rare, especially in fairy tales. So did Belle love him eventually? Yes, right? But not because he was impressive. No, because he was consistent. Not because he was strong. I mean, that's a plus. Because he was safe. She felt safe with him. Not because he pursued, because he waited. Why the original story couldn't allow this? Because it would undermine the fantasy. The fantasy that love transforms monsters. The fantasy that intensity equals depth. The fantasy that persistence is romantic. This alternate timeline threatens that. Oh, yes, it does. It says this: sometimes the man who steps back is the one worth stepping toward. My final answer, if Gaston had played it cool, he wouldn't have taken Belle. He would have made space, and Belle would have chosen him anyway. The moral of the story that we don't like to hear: love doesn't reward pressure, it responds to presence. It doesn't bloom under demand. No, it grows under freedom, right? The freedom of choice, the freedom to just be yourself. And that's my thoughts. What do you think? I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Until next time, talk to you later. Bye.
Listen in with Lindsay.
If you love talking all things Belle, Gaston, Beast, then you're going to love singing along to me to Belle's reprise. I'll see you there. Bye.